From NJ PBS Studios, this is NJ Spotlight News with Brianna Venozzi.
Good evening and thanks for joining us on this Wednesday. I'm Brianna Venozzi. Tonight, a few stories we'll get into later in the broadcast. The latest poll in the race for governor shows Democrat Mikey Sherrill's lead is shrinking. We look at one of the defining issues for the campaigns, how the candidates would overhaul New Jersey's school funding. Then, can the state really eliminate all traffic deaths in the next 15 years? We hear from a mother fighting for safer streets after losing her son. And later, direct cash, no strings attached. A new program for expecting moms is coming to New Jersey. We'll tell you how it works. But first, a few of today's top headlines. Amazon is facing more legal trouble in New Jersey. Attorney General Matt Platkin is accusing the retail giant of discriminating against pregnant and disabled workers at its warehouses here in the state. In a lawsuit announced today, Platkin accused Amazon of repeatedly denying those workers reasonable accommodations and then allegedly either placing the workers on unpaid leave or firing them for not meeting quotas. The complaint comes just a day after the Attorney General targeted Amazon, the state's largest employer, for worker misclassification of its flex drivers. Allegations Amazon denies. A spokesperson for the company didn't respond to a request for comment on this lawsuit, but the company has denied wrongdoing in other similar cases. Also, a Jersey City hospital facing a major funding crisis says it's ending some services in an urgent bid to stay open. Heights University, formerly known as Christ Hospital, announced today it'll begin winding down some non-essential services in the next few days, but will continue operating as an acute care hospital, including keeping the emergency department, critical care, operating rooms, and medical surgical services open. The move still needs state approval and comes just days after Heights received $2 million in emergency funding from the state. It also comes as another $25 million is being considered by lawmakers to keep the hospital from shutting its doors entirely. Hudson Regional Health, which took over Heights and two other hospitals from CarePoint Health last year, says it poured $300 million into stabilizing the facilities, most of it at Heights, which is considered a safety net hospital that takes a high rate of uninsured patients. The operator, HRH, cites cuts to charity care and low reimbursement rates as the main driver of their financial pressures. The nurses union, HPAE, has repeatedly raised concerns, accusing the operator of failing to live up to its promises to keep the hospital fully running, and today called on state regulators to do a public review of its finances before any changes are made. And it may look official, but that text from the New Jersey DMV is a scam. Authorities are warning residents not to click links in unsolicited messages claiming to be from the Motor Vehicle Commission or other state agencies. The fake text will often threaten license suspension, unpaid tolls, or legal action, urging you to pay up fast. But here's the red flag. New Jersey hasn't had a DMV in more than 2 decades, and the Motor Vehicle Commission says it never sends payment demands via text. The latest warnings come from the Middlesex County Prosecutor's Office, which says it's all part of a growing SMS phishing scam that cost consumers $470 million last year alone, according to federal data. New Jersey ranks among the top 5 states for internet scam losses, and they're getting really sophisticated, using URLs that have NJ MVC or EasyPass NJ in them, but they're usually from overseas and have suspicious domain names like .icu instead of .gov. If you get one of those texts, authorities say don't click, don't reply, and don't pay. Block the number and report it as spam. Coming up, how would a Governor Chitterelli or Sherrill reform the state's school funding formula? And are they planning to raise your property taxes to fix it? We'll have that story next.
Major funding for NJ Spotlight News is provided in part by NJM Insurance Group, serving the insurance needs of residents and businesses for more than 100 years. Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey, an independent licensee of the Blue Cross and Blue Shield Association, and by the PSCG Foundation.
The latest poll on New Jersey's governor's race finds the competition is still Democrat Mikey Sherrill's to lose. The Rutgers-Eagleton survey out today puts Sherrill ahead with a narrow 5-point lead over Republican Jack Chitterelli. That's down from the double-digit advantage she had in the same poll just after the June primary. The tight race is one reason national Democrats are pumping another 6 figures into New Jersey to hire more field staff and boost voter turnout. It brings the Democratic National Committee's total spending in the state to $3.5 million as they try to hold on to one of just 2 gubernatorial seats on the ballot this year. And while both parties pour money and attention into the race, we're taking a closer look at some of the defining issues for the campaigns. Among them, school funding, which impacts not just students and their education, but also your property tax bill. Senior correspondent Joanna Gagis breaks down the candidates' starkly different views and how they could reshape affordability in New Jersey.
In the final stretch of the gubernatorial campaign, the candidates are seizing on issues that'll gain the most traction with voters. The school funding formula might not be the catchiest issue, but it's one whose impact runs deep, not only on how much state aid school districts get, but also how much residents pay in property taxes, a majority of which goes to funding schools.
I would stabilize and modernize it, making sure we don't have the swings year over year, and then modernize. We haven't updated the formula in many years now.
The current school funding formula was put in place 8 years ago, pre-pandemic, and hasn't been updated since. Democratic Congresswoman and candidate Mikey Sherrill hasn't offered specifics on how she'd modernize it, but says she'd make changes to help support special education students. Republican Jack Ciattarelli has been very critical of the formula.
It's nefarious, it's arbitrary. I think it's unconstitutional, violating the Equal Benefit Clause of our state constitution that says that no community is supposed to suffer at the expense of another. No one's going to ever justify to me why the districts that get the greatest amount of state aid have a cost per pupil that could range anywhere from $35,000 to $40,000, when those communities that hardly get any aid have a cost per pupil that's between $15,000 and $20,000 and better educational outcomes.
The formula puts a value on each student based on a set of needs. If they're an English language learner, if they rely on free or reduced lunch because of economic challenges, those students are considered at risk, and whether they require special services. These are the key factors. Those valuations are then calculated for each student across the district, creating the amount the district needs to provide a thorough and efficient education. Under Ciattarelli's plan,
the state will take over the cost of special ed. Special ed education is causing a crowding out effect in our local school budgets. And then what we will do is give every school district X for every English speaking student, Y for every English language learner, because that student is more educationally intensive. And then every school district for non-special ed has to be between $15,000 and $20,000 per student. And if they're not, they'll begin to lose their state aid because they're wasting their state aid.
That change would mean a district like Newark, which spends $24,000 to $33,000 per student, would lose about 40% per pupil. Education Law Center's Danielle Ferry says that change could have a lasting impact on educational outcomes.
It suggests that he's proposing that there's no additional funding for at-risk students. All of the research in the field suggests that that would be a very poor choice, that students who come to school from low-income families need additional resources throughout their educational career. And so removing that funding in order to shift it over to special education, I think would be a really unwise decision and would create enormous inequities within our school funding formula and really do a major disservice to students.
But Jack's change has more support in districts that have faced year-over-year losses as the formula adjusted aid based on decreased student enrollment. Superintendents like Michael Sitta in Toms River want to see Ciattarelli's changes enacted.
Jack really does understand the school funding formula and the problems that it causes. And I do agree with some of the solutions that are being proposed, and I hope that they're investigated and vetted through, because we know what it costs to educate a student who is ESL or ELL. We know what it costs for a student with a certain degree of autism. There is plenty of dollars in the educational budget in the state of New Jersey that can address all these issues equally, so these students get funded fairly and property tax relief happen at the same time.
To address the property tax issue in the state, Sherrill said she'd require districts to merge and would encourage more county-based schools.
Right now, we have more municipalities than California, and we have more school districts than municipalities. And it's raising costs on everybody. We have some school districts who have the whole administrative cost, all of the buildings, and yet they're not even running a K through 12 school system. So we do need to merge some of these school districts. We also need to make some county-based school systems. The ones that we have are some of the best performers in our state. And this is a way in which I think we can ensure we're getting great education to people while driving down property taxes, especially in those areas where we're not running a full K-12 system.
Merging districts has long been touted as a way to drive down costs, but it hasn't gained much traction. Chitterelli also supports mergers, but says he would not force them. He's a proponent of school choice and vouchers and wants to see more charter schools opened, especially in urban districts. Cheryl does not believe vouchers should be used to fund private institutions with taxpayer dollars. But are these the kinds of issues that'll drive voters to the polls? Maybe. And it might just depend on where you live.
And our senior correspondent, Joanna Gagas, joins us now in the studio. Hey, Joe. So clearly they are taking very different tracks for how they would overhaul the funding formula. But do we have specifics on how they would do it?
When we hear from Jack, he is very specific. He really has laid out a very detailed plan for how he would restructure this formula, which, by the way, is pretty complicated. There are all these valuations that are attributed to a student based on a number of criteria. He wants to simplify that majorly. Now, there's a lot of conflicting responses to that. Some folks say, yes, that's really helpful and beneficial. Other folks say that's going to really put students who are at risk kind of out of the calculation there, and that could create some harm. So mixed reactions there. But when it comes to Cheryl's plan, she's much lighter on specifics. I would say she's really said she wants to stop some of the fluctuations
what does that
happen.
mean?
So the way that we've seen districts either see these major wins or major losses in terms of equalization aid, that's how much they get from the state, and we've seen multi-million-dollar losses versus wins or increases. So she wants to level that out, but I'll just tell you that I don't think either of these, whoever comes in this next administration, isn't going to have that same type of fluctuation because we are much more, quote, level set, I'd say, from the formula rolling out over the last 7 years.
But it's, I mean, I think as someone told you for your piece, Chitterelli's plan is simple for a very complex issue. Is it more layered than that? I mean, because it's not just the school funding formula when you look at it all.
Well, if you take the broader budget, he says that he's going to make a lot of priorities. He says he will fully fund the pension. He says he will fund the school formula according to this new plan, but he also wants to tackle health care. And so that's going to be a major, I think, cost driver for him. So how he cuts the budget and does that, that's yet to be seen, of course, if he were to win this election.
Right, which of course is a big piece when they negotiate with the schools. Joanna, great reporting. Thanks so much for coming in.
Thanks, Bree.
Well, for the first time, the public is getting a chance to weigh in on a new statewide plan aimed at eliminating traffic deaths. The state's Target Zero Commission held its first hearing today on ways to improve road safety in order to reach a goal of ending serious injuries and road fatalities by 2040. It comes on the heels of a devastating year for pedestrian fatalities in New Jersey. According to state police statistics, as of today, 126 pedestrians have been killed. Sangeeta Bedlani was among the advocates at the hearing. She lost her 11-year-old son Nikhil in a 2011 crash caused by a distracted driver and now works to ensure no other family endures the same loss. Sangeeta, thank you for being with us. You and I have spoken over the years, but it's nice to talk with you in person. This meeting marks a major step for the commission. Let me just ask you what that means for you personally.
Oh, I mean, when we started working on this bill, we didn't know whether we will end up having this passed into a law. And it took us almost over 2.5 years to get to pass the law. And then since then, we've been working very closely with the commission on the next steps and what the action items will be for the commission to implement, to eliminate traffic deaths by 2040. So it's very heartening to me to see this come through, and the engagement that we are seeing from the commission members, the way they're engaging the advocates, in the conversation, it has been just wonderful. And of course, we have to wait and see how it goes, right? So
The commission, as you mentioned, it's 13 agencies involved, a representative from each. What specific policy reforms or changes do you think need to be prioritized in order to get, it's an ambitious goal, but in order to reach it?
yes, we know it's an ambitious goal, but we know it's achievable. We have seen cities and other states achieve it. Like Hoboken has had 0 traffic deaths in the last 8 years. So we know it can be done. And 50% of, all the roadway fatalities in New Jersey are on state-controlled roadways. So we knew that we needed the state to be involved in this conversation. And so it's really nice that we have these agencies, but some of the items that, action items that we're really focused on as advocates is the road design and infrastructure improvements. So, the focus has always been on educating the public, and I think that's really important. I think law enforcement is important, and that's why we have the New York Police, the State Police Department involved, and as a commission member here. But really, roadway designing, infrastructure improvements.
What would that look like, right? I mean, as you said, education has been a key component, changing driver behavior. But if the roads aren't set up to also help the cause, you're kind of stuck there. So what would that look like? What type of specific suggestions are you making?
So, for example, you're driving on a road and the speed limit is set at, say, 40 miles per hour, right? People are speeding at 50 miles per hour. Well, the reason is because we have the roads that are designed for people to speed. So you could have traffic calming measures over there to slow down the people, from speeding. So that's why when I talk about infrastructure improvements and road designs, we have all these tools that can calm people from speeding. So, speeding is one of the contributing factors to high number of traffic crashes, right? But then we're also looking at some legislations. For example, automated enforcement, especially in, to reduce speed in school zone areas. We have our neighboring towns and states that are doing it, like New York, Pennsylvania. Why can't New Jersey? There's another legislation that we are looking at right now is the school bus safety camera. And it's already been introduced in the assembly. And
these are for people who, instead of stopping when the school buses are parked and letting students off, they zip around, which I've seen probably just this week.
Exactly. So we're talking about illegally passing a school bus, right? And we see so many instances of that. And we need to protect our kids. So these are some of the legislative and some of the other reforms that we are looking at,
One big concern I know that you and other advocates have is accountability and ensuring that the transition between state leadership, we have a new governor who will be taking office, that they follow through, that they actually continue with this plan. How are you and others looking to make sure they do that?
So that is a big question and a concern for us. Embedded in this law is the adoption of this action plan, and that's why it's on an accelerated path, and it's going to be adopted by the end of this year, and hopefully, it's signed in. We just need to make sure that the next administration is also committed to saving lives and prioritizes safety. And as advocates, we will continue to fight for that, and hopefully they pay attention.
Because I know it's deeply personal for you. You started a foundation in your son's name. Parents don't necessarily think that they'll be in that position. And here you've dedicated your life now to it.
That's right. And our hope is that with this action plan, we're able to prevent further tragedies, and parents don't have to worry about their children not coming home, and that's what we can do. But it's very important for the public to also understand that, traffic deaths are not inevitable, right? And we have to have this systemic change to ensure that we can prevent further tragedies and it's so important for others to understand that. So, for example, we hear about distracted driving, people speeding, impaired driving. These are all contributing factors, but unless we take that action and we say that we're not going to do that, our children's life is at risk. We need to make that change by ourselves. But again, that's not it's not enough on itself. We need the transportation system also. So we need everything to come hand in hand,
Sangeeta Badlani, thank you so much for coming in. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
A groundbreaking program aimed at fighting childhood poverty is coming to New Jersey, offering eligible pregnant moms direct cash assistance, no strings attached. The project is already active in 9 other states, and early data shows those participants had healthier babies, improved mental health, and better job opportunities. Raven Santana has more on how it works and who qualifies.
Moms, especially parents generally, know what their kids need best and have the sense of when a dollar needs to go to making sure the rent is on time, when it needs to go to making sure that there's food on the table, when it needs to go towards a camp scholarship for a kid.
Susanna Fritzberg is the executive director of the Bridge Project, a cash assistance program that gives expecting mothers unconditional direct cash payments during a child's critical first 1,000 days of life. Born in New York City 5 years ago, the initiative has now expanded to 9 states and this fall to New Jersey. The goal is simple but profound: to break the cycle of childhood poverty by trusting mothers to decide what their families need most.
Our premise is that when you trust moms with resources and no strings attached, children grow up healthier with parents who can thrive economically. And we've seen that in our own research, and we've seen that in the field again and again.
The program will support 250 pregnant individuals in Newark, Trenton, Patterson, and the southern counties of Gloucester, Salem, and Cumberland. Applicants must be at least 18, earn under $44,000 a year, and be 23 weeks pregnant or less. No social security number or ITIN is required.
New Jersey has one of the highest wealth gaps in the country, right? There are 250,000 children living in poverty. 1 in 8 are experiencing food insecurity.
The Bridge Project's New Jersey expansion is backed by $6 million in local funding and the Monarch Foundation. Under the program, each participant receives 3 years of support, starting with a one-time prenatal stipend of just over $1,100, followed by $750 a month for the first 15 months, then $375 a month for the next 21 months.
Starts with a prenatal stipend that's a little over $1,100. That happens at the beginning of the 3rd trimester because we know it's important to be able to buy your car seat, get your stroller, get ready for baby to come. Throughout that time, we're working with moms to catalyze connections to local resources, services that may be available in their area.
I was in a situation where, I was making, reasonable money to maintain a household. But the program is definitely, like I said, help with the gaps in between, especially when you have little to no support, from the other half or, your own family.
Newark resident Essence Vines just graduated from Kane University. She's a mother of 2 daughters, ages 11 and 14, with another baby on the way. 250 applicants. You were chosen. What did that feel like?
It felt like, honestly, it took me back to graduation, like when I graduated in May, just having my name called, and it's like, wow, like, I am deserving of this.
Vines says the extra support offers stability and peace of mind, especially as critical food assistance programs will run out of money at the end of this month due to the ongoing government shutdown. Vines receives monthly food benefits through SNAP, also known as food stamps.
It feels like a relief, especially knowing that food stamps will be, jeopardized, across the nation. I will definitely be more strategic, with wipes and diapers.
We really care about supporting and defending our moms' dignity and endowing them with our trust.
Applications opened October 1st and will remain open until all 250 spots are filled, with payments beginning in November. For NJ Spotlight News, I'm Raven Santana.
That's going to do it for us tonight. But a reminder, you can download our podcast wherever you listen and watch us anytime by subscribing to the NJ Spotlight News YouTube channel. Plus, you can always follow us on Instagram and Blue Sky to stay up to date on all the state's big headlines. And with Election Day just around the corner, check out our voter guide to get up to speed on the candidates and races on the ballot this year. Head to the NJ Decides 2025 tab on our homepage. I'm Brianna Vanozzi. For the entire team at NJ Spotlight News, thanks for being with us. We'll see you right back here tomorrow.
New Jersey Education Association, making public schools great for every child. RWJ Barnabas Health, let's be healthy together. And Orston, committed to delivering clean, reliable, American-made energy.
Public service is what we do. At the PSEG Foundation, through volunteer hours, partnerships, and our other contributions, we're committed to empowering communities. We work hand in hand with you, our neighbors, to educate young people, support research, environmental sustainability, and equitable opportunities, provide training and other services all over New Jersey and Long Island. Uplifting communities, that's what drives us, the PSEG Foundation.
Whatever your cancer journey, there's one place in New Jersey where our discoveries become your care. You'll have access to advanced treatments, including clinical trials, thanks to our renowned scientists and multidisciplinary teams at New Jersey's only NCI-designated comprehensive cancer center, the one world-class cancer program that's close to home. RWJ Barnabas Health and Rutgers Cancer Institute. Let's beat cancer together.